if there's a turmoil, or there's a conflict, or if there's a struggle that's taking place, or if there's a war, what do? You need to pick up a side, and you need to play your part. You need to have your contribution there. Right now, there is a war taking place. It's not a new war, it's a very old war in fact. It's a war, the same war that killed Syria, the same war that burned Yemen, the same war that's destroyed Iraq, the same war that sets fires across the world, the same war that affects us in Pakistan, which makes it all the more pertinent that all of us become active in this war. We pick up a side and we play our role. If I ask you who is the enemy, because of course in every war you need to have a friend and an enemy. If I ask you who's the enemy, who would you name as the one enemy responsible for all the death and destruction and misery? You'd probably name a person, or you'll name a country, or you'll name some people, or a group of organizations, or a religion, an ethnicity, a minority, a community. That's an oversimplification that we usually tend to do. It is also a fallacy. Because the truth is that names change, places change, reasons change, justifications change, but the fundamental enemy remains the same. And that enemy is not a person, that enemy is not an organization, that enemy is not a religion or a cult or a nation or a group of people. That enemy is an idea. That enemy is the idea of us versus them. That enemy is the idea of espousing differences. That enemy is the idea of hate. Because when you start to fear someone, you show it as hate. And the thing with ideas is, apart from being bulletproof, ideas are also really hard to defeat because they can only be beaten or challenged by a competing idea. An idea can replace an idea. I'm Mohammad Murtaza. I am the CEO of Turr Lahore, which is a student startup that works on socially responsible tourism initiatives in order to drive our contribution in this war against the enemy which is the idea of hate. And today, in the next few minutes, what I'm going to try to do is to give you an alternative idea, an idea that can beat this idea of hate, to train you so that you're not the same people that came into the hall. When you leave, you're a different person. When you leave, you are a warrior in this war that's super destructive, in this war that has been claiming so many lives around the world, that has been claiming the happiness of so many people. I want you to be an active warrior in this war. I want you to be an active part of it, and I want you to be an efficient fighter fighting against the enemy, which is the concept of hate. The idea of hate. So how do we challenge hate? How do we understand what hate is? How does this work? To explain to you the complexity of the situation, the first thing I want to tell you is something that one of my personal favorite characters, which is Hazrat Shahid, Albus Festival, Film Dumbledore. He was one of the earlier martyrs in the war against you-know-who in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, in which the Dark Lord, Lord Voldemort, represents all the things that I've talked to you about. Hate, antipathy, not really being able to love. And Dumbledore gives a very nice analysis of Lord Voldemort. And giving that analysis, he also gives us a very good analysis of the enemy that we are talking about today. He says that Lord Voldemort's greatest gift is spreading discord and enmity. We can fight it only by showing an equally strong bond of friendship and trust. Do you see the problem? Do you see how hard it becomes to fight against hate? Because fighting against an idea involves you getting into the head. Ideas don't live in a place. You can't go and you can't bomb an idea. You can't go and you can't kill someone who has an idea, because then you'll be killing the person. You can't kill the idea. The idea lives right here. The idea lives in your head. It might live in your head. Will you be able to kill yourself? Will you be able to identify yourself as someone who espouses hate? And that's where the problem is. The problem is that you can't fight against hate by killing, because if you start killing, then hate wins and you lose. You can't fight against hate by destroying, because if you start destroying, then hate wins and you lose. You can't fight against hate by starting to hate, because once you start hating, hate wins and you lose. So we need to fight hate in a very different way. We need to fight hate by finding what hate wants us to do, what this enemy, what this dark lord wants us to do, and then, only then, once we know what it wants, can we pinpoint and do exactly what it does not want us to do. And that's how you defeat hate, and that's how you identify hate. So step one, I'm just going to make you warriors. I don't have a lot of time in the next few minutes. I'm going to try my best to train you as warriors in this art, not as well as my friends here have tried to do before. But I'll just give you a few tips in, very burger language so that you can understand simply and, have a framework in your head. Step one, identify the enemy. Identify where hate lies. Identify who to hate. You see the problem with that sentence? You can't identify who to hate. That's step one. That's something not to do. The thing you need to do is to identify where hate lies. Hate lies in your head. Hate lies where you think. So identify hate as something that tells you to do or not to do a few things. You can't identify hate by a person or an ethnicity. You have to identify a hate when it shows itself through telling you to do certain things and not other things. So think about it while I'm going to talk about these 3 things that hate wants you to do. And then maybe you can start analyzing and looking around and seeing, who do you think hates? And the funny thing, it's going to be a spoiler, the funny thing is going to be, you might end up finding that some part of the enemy that's destroyed so many lives, some part of the enemy that's responsible for so much death and destruction in this world might lie in your own head. So start thinking. So what does hate want you to do? The first thing that hate wants you to do is that hate wants you to stop exploring. Hate wants you to stop going out of your comfort zone. Hate wants you to stop trying different ideas. Hate wants you to stop asking different questions. The second thing hate wants you to do is hate wants you to stop talking. This doesn't mean that hate is going to come and it's going to put a tape on your mouth. That's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't want you to stop making sounds. It doesn't want you to stop blabbering. It wants you to stop talking. And there's a very subtle difference between the two. And if you want to see that difference clearly, you can turn on the television and you can see something that they call talk shows, which aren't really talk shows. Because the people over there aren't really talking, they're just blabbering. When one person tries to drown the sound of another person, when you want to be louder and louder and louder so that people can't hear what the other person is saying, that's not talking, that's blabbering. And people who do that, what's been termed as the foxification of our news channels, when they start blabbering, when they start shouting, when they start trying to be louder than the other person, that's not a talk show. It shouldn't be called a talk show. A talk cannot be a show per se, because a talk is a mutual thing. A talk is when you speak to be heard, and when you listen, and when you hear what the other person has to say, and when you're ready to accept what the other person has to say, and when you're ready to convey and explain to them what your point of view is, that is what talking is. And the enemy does not want you to talk. Hate does not want you to talk. Because once you start talking, you start understanding other people's perspective. When you're blabbering, it's fine. When you start talking, hate has a problem. Then there's a third thing that hate doesn't want you to do. And the third thing is that it wants you to stop thinking. It wants you to start believing. It wants you to start thinking in a way that is not really thinking at all. Because if you believe that what you say is right, and if you believe that you have the right path, you have the shortcut, you know what the truth is, you know what God is, you know what right is, you know what wrong is, you aren't really thinking. You think you're thinking, you're actually just believing blindly in something that's been indoctrinated into you. And that's what hate wants. It wants you to stop thinking proactively. It wants you to stop thinking in a way in which you would start challenging yourself. It wants you to stop thinking in a way in which you would listen to other people's opinions, in a way in which you would say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to do something. Maybe I need to challenge what I've believed in. Maybe I need to stop believing at all. Maybe I just need to start listening to other people, thinking from other people's perspectives, embracing other people's perspectives. This doesn't mean you lose whatever you've been taught. It doesn't mean you lose your religion, or you lose your ideas, or you lose whatever you hold dear. It means that you keep them, but you also thoroughly check them by thinking about them, not just believing in them blindly. Make sense? So now we understand what hate is. Can you now think about all the different people in your life, all the different elements in your life, all the people, all the different times in your life, and you yourself have told yourself to not Explore. When you've stopped yourself from talking to people, so that a Shia boy cannot talk to a Sunni boy, and a person who's from the West cannot talk to a burqa-clad woman, and a burqa-clad woman cannot sit with a bikini-clad woman and talk to her, because, of course, we can't talk. And the voice in your head which says you can't talk, that voice is the enemy. The voice in your head which says you don't need to think about this particular thing, you can accept it as it is, that voice is the enemy. How do we defeat this enemy? As I said earlier, can you fight against the enemy? No, you can't fight against this enemy, because if you start fighting against this enemy, the enemy wins, you lose. You can't hate this enemy, because then hate wins, you lose. How do you fight? Step 1, very simple. Step 2, very simple. You start doing everything, each and everything that hate does not want you to do. One by one. You do each and every one of those things. You make hate fail. You make the enemy fail. The first thing that I want you to start doing. So when you leave this hall, think about what I've said and start doing everything that would make the enemy lose. The first thing I want you to start doing, I want you to start exploring. I want you to start going out of your comfort zone. So if you work in an office space, think of the most unlikely place that you'd be. Go to that place, meet with those people. They've tried different cultures, try different cuisines. If you're in Pakistan, go outside Pakistan. If you're in Lahore, go outside Lahore. But more importantly, if you are in a walled campus, go outside that campus, meet people outside, explore, talk to them. If there's a place, if there's a barbed wire, and somebody tells you this is an Imam Baghdad, that's why they're barbed wire, they're hiding inside, and then you think, that's a place that I would never see myself at, let me go and explore. And then you think of a synagogue and you say, that's a place that I can never imagine myself at, let me go and explore. And then you think of a Baloch person's house, I don't have any Baloch friends, I can't imagine myself there. You go there and you start exploring. You go to India, you go to Afghanistan, you go and you meet these people and you explore. That's the first thing I want you to do, explore. And it doesn't cost much, you don't have to leave the country. As somebody previously said, you have the internet, you start exploring, start talking to those people. The second thing I want you to do is to start talking. It might sound easier, but it's not. Because when you start talking, you always come up with this idea, you always have this, don't learn from Donald Trump what Islam is, but at the same time, don't learn what the West is from the cleric in your Friday mosque. Go to America, and if you can't, then go meet Americans. Talk to them. Go meet Shears, talk to them. Go meet Ahmadis, talk to them. Do you actually believe in the finality? Do you actually not believe in the finality of the Prophet? Is that actually true? All the things that I've been believing in blindly, are they actually true? Go out, talk. The third thing that I want you to do, is I want you to stop fearing and start celebrating. How many of us here believe in Santa Claus? How many of us here think that Christians believe in Santa Claus? Do you think you need to believe in Santa Claus to celebrate Christmas? And well, Santa Claus might be a fictional character living in the North Pole, but the fact is you don't need to believe in anything in order to celebrate it. You don't need to believe in anything in order to be a part of it. Just because you are at a Christmas ceremony doesn't mean that you believe in whatever Christmas might represent. It just means that you believe in celebrating a festivity. And if you see a holy festival and you see people throwing colors, those colors have no religion. It doesn't matter what that symbolizes. What matters is that people are having a good time and people are throwing around colors and you can go and join them without having to have a faith background in that event. And you know what's the best part about this? The best part about stopping your fears and the best part about celebrating diversity. The best part about going out there and saying that these events that I would never take part in, I would start taking part in them right now. The best part in saying I'm going to celebrate 14th of August and I'm also going to celebrate 15th of August if I have people celebrating around me. It is that once you start doing this, you open the way for others to come and do the same with you. You can't expect someone to listen to you when you're not listening to them. You can't expect someone to come and say Eid Mubarak to you when you don't say Diwali Mubarak to them. You can't expect reciprocation works on this principle that you need to take the first step. Go out there, stop fearing, and when you stop fearing, you'll take the first step, and take the first step, and take it again, and take it again, and take it again, and you will see eventually that you see reciprocation, you see that thing coming back. And I've had this event in my life several times. So at Turr Lahore, we started doing all these things. We started doing all these things. We started exploring, we started talking, we started celebrating different festivals. We took about 40 non-Shias to the heart of Shiite Lahore on the 9th of Muharram evening, the evening between 9th and 10th of Muharram. And we went to the heart of Shiite Lahore, 40 non-Shias, going there, not believing in Imam Hussain, not really knowing what Karbala is all about, sitting there, listening to them. And the amazing thing was, the one question that a few of the people asked me before leaving was, we're going to their Ashura event, but the thing is, they don't come to our Rabiul Awwal event. And I asked them to take the first step. I asked them to take the first step and go and sit in the Ashura commemoration. And a few months later, when the Rabiul Awwal event, commemoration started, when the Julus for the Rabiul Awwal event started, for the first time, we had Shiites come to us, approach us and say, we want to go and we want to see these Rabiul Awwal events. We want to see what they do on Bara Rabiul Awwal. Why? Because they came to listen to us on Ashura. We want to go and listen to them on their event. So break this evil cycle. Break this monopoly of hate. Break the enemy. Defeat the enemy not by fighting, not by killing, not by destroying, not by using violence, because if you do any of those things, the enemy wins and you lose. Defeat the enemy by foiling the enemy's plans. Defeat the enemy by doing everything they don't want you to do. Start exploring, start talking, start celebrating, stop fearing, and start loving. Thank you.